Shabbat Shalom, my friends. It's atypically a cold and rainy day here in Los Angeles. How good it is to be back together again, renewing our never-ending conversations with the Torah. Tu B'Shvat has now passed. We have celebrated the new year of trees, and we have recommitted ourselves to be caring and responsible guardians of our environment, as, after all, we were commanded early in the book of Genesis. And we now are officially on our way toward Purim. And after Purim, the incredible joys and challenges of Passover await us. Trapped as we still are in our homes, unable to move freely about and to interact with our world, not always certain what day of the week it is or what day of the month it is, our ancient calendar provides us with wonderful signposts pointing toward a meaningful and purposeful journey through life. Follow the Jewish calendar. You'll never lose where you are in the year. And today, this Shabbat is known as Shabbat Shira, the Sabbath on which we read Shirat Hayam, the song that the Israelites sang after they crossed the Red Sea and began their march toward the land of promise. Our Sedra is Beshalach, Exodus chapter 13, verse 17 and following. Az Yashir Moshe Uvenei Israel. Then Moses and the Israelites sang this song to the Eternal. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Who is like you, Eternal One among the celestials? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders? This is a song of exaltation, a song of confidence. Former slaves lifting up their voices in cathartic triumph. Soon, Miriam and the women will take up their timbrels and dance with sacred joy. This is my God, the God of my ancestors. Let us exalt and enshrine God. A great day. Aviva Zornberg wants us to look not only at this glorious explosion of joy, but at the fact that not everything at this moment is actually all that joyous. Even as their voices were lifting in song, it was abundantly clear that the Exodus experience is not going to be a matter of just a few weeks, a mere jaunt through the wilderness. God declares up front that the Israelites would not be led along the shortest route. Their journey will be long and their journey will be hard. Our rabbinic commentators scrambled to provide a rationale for God's decision. They offer a few. For example, former slaves cannot suddenly be introduced to sovereignty and freedom, just as those released from a period of isolation and deprivation cannot suddenly be given what we would normally consider to be rich and wholesome food. That would be, in fact, deadly. So too must the Israelites be given the chance to throw off the psychological and spiritual and physical burdens of slavery. One commentator, another. The Israelites really don't have a clue about God. They were quite uncertain about notions of covenant and of obligation. So this prolonged journey would kind of be like a courtship as the future bride and groom come to know and grow to understand and hopefully to love each other. Or the former slaves will confront serious challenges in the desert. They will be called upon to fight off marauding tribes. They'll have a serious change of diet. They'll have to plan their own days and organize their own lives. So, of course, there will be periods in which they will yearn to be back in Egypt. Of course, they will wonder whether the cost of freedom is simply too much to bear. But they cannot enter Canaan until they have removed every bit of a longing to return to Egypt. And that won't be simple. The road not taken, the obvious route, the most direct route, would crush the meaning of liberation. The crooked route, the circuitous route, the twisted route, the unexpected and hardly the preferred route is the only possible highway to a secure and meaningful future. So keep on singing, Israel. Keep on dancing, Miriam. Let everyone drive away all doubts on this day. But just know that the real world awaits you tomorrow. And you are not in any way or fashion prepared for that real world. In this Sedra of song, we find ample evidence of anxiety. Seeing Pharaoh's army pursuing them, our ancestors cried out to God, "Weren't there enough graves in Egypt? Why did you bring us out here in the wilderness just to die?" Then there was a problem of sweet water. There wasn't any. So just 3 days after they finished their singing and their dancing, our people were bitterly complaining. And then, 2 or 3 weeks later, the people were crying once again, regretting that they had not died in Egypt. At least in Egypt, they had fish and vegetables and bread. But here in the desert, they're starving. Then God issued specific commands as to how people were to gather and to eat that unique food, manna. But God warned, if the manna were not gathered in proper fashion, it would rot. Is this what Moses' notion of freedom is all about? At this point, the text makes clear, Moses actually thought that the Israelites were getting ready to stone him to death. Maybe just a month or two after the singing and the dancing at the shores of the Reed Sea. Ironic, huh? Then came Amalek, a desert tribe that would become synonymous with all of the nations that would ever seek to destroy us. Seeing a bedraggled band of former slaves, Amalek thought that they're going to be easy targets. Amalek attacked from the rear, expecting again easy pickings among the aged, the infirm, the very young. You see, freedom requires active self-defense. Slaves don't need armies. And so these former slaves must have experienced quite a rude awakening. I wonder, during that first battle, did our ancestors still hum Shirataya Mich? Really? When Amalek was seeking to destroy them? Probably not. The road not taken would have been a disaster. Zornberg points to what she considers to be radical doubt that filled the hearts of the Israelites. Radical doubt. They believed only that which they knew. And they even twisted their memories to fuel their growing doubts. But note that God didn't mind this at all. God has no problems with doubt, with silent fears, with our clouds of anxiety and uncertainty. God will react fiercely against active rebellion. But the Exodus itself was designed to allow the Israelites the mental space to ask their questions, to silence their fears, to transform themselves into a holy people with a mission. Here's the truth. Self-knowledge is painfully acquired. Fear and anxiety had become the byproducts of how the Israelites experienced their world. That fear, that anxiety would not disappear in a week or a month, or maybe not even in 40 years. The Midrash will refer to the Exodus period as a time when Torah settles into our people's bodies. I love that phrase. When Torah settles into people's bodies. That's what was going on in the wilderness wandering. Think of that the next time you vigorously seek to change someone else's mind. Think of that when you expect an entire country to change its mindset overnight. Think of that when you encounter a self-destructive refusal on the part of others to grow past what they previously experienced as true. And think of that as well when you examine your own values and your own convictions, your own deeply held beliefs. And so I repeat, self-knowledge is painfully acquired. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Let's continue our conversations next week, and maybe the sun will shine. Maybe. We'll see.